We've been having so many conversations in excruciating detail of what's happened in Galwan, subsequently in Pangong, so the 4 fingers, 5th finger, 8th finger, the ridge lines. Now there is a crucial area which in our public imagination we need to have equal deep understanding about. I'm not going to, in the course of this broadcast, go into operational logics of what's happening there on the ground right now, but to give you, our viewers, a broader understanding of how important areas south of the Pangong Tso Lake are. Let's quickly have this conversation. Joining us on the broadcast, I have Major General A.K. Sivach, Lieutenant General P.J.S. Pannu joining us, as well as Major General P.K. Sehgal. Let's pull up our touchpad on our screens, please. Here's a quick examination to show you what we are talking about here. So this is the Pangong Tso Lake South Bank, right? Now, we've heard about that now. These are your finger areas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. That's on the north bank of the Pangong Tso Lake. But as you start heading towards the south, you get into Chushul. And then you start getting into the Chushul, what we call the Chushul-Moldo border region. Moldo being a crucial valley with which is considered a major Chinese entry point or invasion front line. Let me go further deeper into this conversation by looking further north. So I was pointing out this is from a different angle. So these are your finger areas on the north bank, right? The 8 finger areas. And now we are looking further down, in this case, to the right of the picture, to the south bank over here. And this is looking into Chinese territory. So the LAC is roughly here. And this is looking into the Chinese territory, which would geographically be towards the south and southeast, but in this photograph, to the top. So this is the south bank of the Pangong Tso Lake. Now here are the crucial points that really matter. South bank of the Pangong Tso, okay. Here, Helmet, Blacktop, Mukpari, the Spangon Tso. So basically means lake. So Spangar Tso Lake. Then there is something particularly known as the ITPP Hill in Chushul. The name speaks for itself. The Magar Hill, 0.5167, and what is something known as the bump on the LAC. This is the Chinese claim line on the LAC. Okay, this is the Indian claim line. I'm sorry it's a bit hodgepodge on your screens, and I'll go into this in more detail later as we rope in our guests. But here's a very quick overview. Let me now take you to the next visual on our screens. So this is the Finger 4 area, which is the current Chinese claim line, which they are refusing to vacate the particular ridge on the Pangong Tso. This is where the Chinese entry attempt was made on the 29th of August, which was last weekend. India now dominates the heights on the Finger 3 area. This is public information, so I'm not giving you any operational information that is sensitive. But the Chinese entry point in the south bank of the Pangong Tso this time around was of crucial importance to us. And this is the particular area where another one of those clashes took place on the intervening night of the 29th and the 30th of August on the south bank of the Pangong Tso. Now have a look at this image. This has been taken, which gives you a detail of Helmet Top, Black Top, the Moldo post, okay, Chushul Moldo border. This is where the meetings have been taking place at the brigadier level talk. So this is the Chushul Moldo border. This is where the meeting takes place. And dominating this is something called Thakung, which is on the banks, south banks of the Pangong Tso Lake, Helmet Top, Black Top, Gurung Hill, and of course Magar Hill. Okay, and there are of course tank positions. We have an airfield there, and Chushul being the proper frontline air base for us. Then going down is the Sakala Valley, and then this towards the east and southeast heads into Moldo on the Chinese side of the LAC. Let's have a look at the next image on our screens. Now this is understanding the borderline here. This is the Indian claim line here. This is the Indian official map. This is the Chinese LAC version over here. Okay. These are the areas where, of course, Rajnath Singh has visited very recently. Now, in this particular region, on the north bank of the Pangong Tso, beyond the 8th finger area, Indian patrols have not entered since 1962 and is currently under Chinese control. And over here, of course, comes very near the four-finger area, Srijap. Okay. And again, to put into context, this is where Chushul is. Let me just show you a couple more images on your screens. This is a further image of the Spangor So Lake, where you can see Rechinla, Rizangla, Mukpari. Let me zoom this in. So, Rechinla, Rizangla, Mukpari, Magar Hill, Helmet Top, Black Top, Thakung, 0.5167, the Bump, the Chushul Heights, the Pankarts, and the ITBP Hill. In the next image on your screens, which is here, now this is Chushul Moldo Spangor So. Okay. Now, this is where from Spangor So that there is a low ground ingress into Chushul. So, once again, this is the ridge line here. This is the ridge line here heading into Pangong So. Okay. This is the gap in the ridge line, which is the, as marked here, low ground ingress heading and threatening Chushul. So, dominating these heights here becomes crucial to dominate this low ground pass access coming in from the Spangor So Lake. Here's another satellite image over here, which is showing the Chinese camp constructions on the south bank of the Pangong So, and in this case showing the Spangor So Lake, where new camp developments have happened, and this is dated the 23rd of June 2020 when new developments have happened. And here's another image there dated the 23rd of June, where you can see that on the south bank of the Spangor So Lake also new Chinese camps have been put together. Okay, let me quickly get in Lieutenant General Pannu. Lieutenant General Pannu, can you explain the topography as you understand it, sir, south of Pangong So, Spangor So, Chushul, Moldo?
So, Rishabh, you have actually gone into great details of explaining some of the features. Since I have been over these features, sometimes on helicopter, sometimes, very close, landing in these places and seeing them from very close quarters, I am also aware of certain plans. So I will not really delve into certain details because of sensitivity of the information, because inadvertently I do not want to make any compromises. But in your show, I will certainly talk about certain information which would be useful, and we can take this discussion forward on what happened end of August, that is 29th, 30th, and what could be the situation now. If you know that in last 3.5 months, the entire activity between the Indian Army and the PLA has been restricted to only north of Pangong So. There was nothing which happened in south of Pangong So. Nothing was reported, but doesn't mean that the PLA and the Indian Army would not be active. Obviously, two nations are at loggerheads, and eyeball to eyeball configuration has been achieved on ground in certain areas. So you cannot say that other areas there would be no activity. So I would say that in the Spangur Gap, which is a lake, which is called the Spangor So, is a very critical entry point of the Chinese from Rudok side. And they have a very good highway of a good classification through which the Chinese would build up. And it is very clear indication that the roads were there, and then certain camps have been there in the area of Spangur. But there is a separation between Spangur and
Okay, just hold your thoughts, sir. I'm showing that image on our screens, and just so that our viewers can keep in track with it. PCR, can we blow up this image, please? Please blow this up. Once again, just to put in geographical perspective, we've been talking about the finger areas. So in this image, the finger areas are here. Okay, that's the north bank of the Pangong So. This is the south bank of the Pangong So. Okay, this is on the bottom of your screens. PCR, इसको ऊपर करिए. क्या कर रहे हैं आप? इसको ऊपर करिए, please. At the bottom of your screens, this here is the Spangor So, okay, and this arrow is depicting the gap that the general is talking about. That is a Chinese entry point potentially threatening Chushul. General, sorry, carry on.
Yes, Rishabh, you're right. There is an entry point which enters from Rudok. There is a highway. It enters the Spangur Gap, and
yeah, carry on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
The PLA can enter the Spangur Gap, which in any case is under their domination, and they also have the camps. Now, these camps in the area of Spangur are a firm base if they have to do any action towards Razangla, Gurung Hill, Magar Hill, towards Blacktop.
Okay, now let's just do this one at a time, so then I'll open General Sibach also. Just talk us through this. So we've talked about the particular pass. Now, helmet top, black top. Just like we didn't know much about Galwan a few months ago, and now we know every nook and cranny of Galwan, I think, as a country. Can you talk us through helmet top, black top, sir?
Yes, though I don't have the liberty of having the screen in front of me, but I will talk about from my
I'm
own
showing the two locations. So the Thakung 0.5167, the bump, ITBP help, helmet top, black top, I'm showing on our screen.
Yes. So from Thakung, you see that there is 5167, and then these are the areas held by us, which are the heights which face the Pangong, facing northwards, located at the south bank of the lake. On the other side, if you see area east of Thakung, there is a depression, and that is a depression, really speaking, is the area where even earlier the PLA has been visiting, and we've had a couple of face-offs historically. But they have not been very serious face-offs because the area is very small, and Chinese have been coming in there, and we have had a lot of scuffles in that area, and then they would usually, after about an hour or two, go back into the heights of their side towards the east. As far as the helmet and the Black Hill is concerned, they further are an extension towards south and on our side of the LAC, and these are the areas which were patrolled and regularly kept under surveillance, and then they further down, they join the Gurung and the Magar Hill, and Gurung and the Magar Hill are the areas literally which are the entry from the Pangur Gap into the Chushul Valley of ours, which is about, say, 2.5 to 3 kilometers wide, which is quite wide, really speaking, if you talk about any ingress possibility from the PLA side. We have Magar Hill, which is located towards the east, and we have the Gurung Hill, which is located towards the west. And right ahead of that, ahead of this Pangur Gap is a Trishul height, which is actually dominated by the PLA, which protects their camps in this Pangur Gap. Now, having said that, when you talk about the LAC and the sensitivity of this area,
yes,
there is a continuation of a ridgeline, and that is a ridgeline which further extends eastwards, which is the Kailash Range. Kailash Range and Ladakh Range, they actually come from the western side towards the south eastern side, and at some point near Chushul, they start opening out.
Correct.
And then we have the extension which further has Razana. This is the junction point where we have the end of the LAC, and we have about 45 kilometers of the IB, that is the original marking of the Survey of India.
Correct.
Where in this area the international border should have lied.
Okay.
So really speaking, this becomes a junction point and a problem point, because if Razangla and Richinla are the ones which the Chinese, if they do start dominating, they will have the ability to get into certain strategic areas.
General Panu, now stay with me. Let me get in General Sivach on the same thought. General Sivach, now let's just go further down. Rechinla, Rezangla, sir. Help us understand them.
Rishabh, what is the point is that, first of all, let me explain to you that why the north of Pangangso has become very important in last 10, 15 years. That is not too much was there in the south of Pangangso. It was strategically and tactically more important, but of late in last 10 years, it is finger 4 to 8 which came into limelight, because most of the friction point was there, and those were strategic heights. But otherwise, they do not have that much importance, as much the importance on basically those heights which are on the south of Pangangso, starting from Thaku, then it is basically your helmet top, black top, Magar Hill, then is come your Gurung Hill, then come to Rajangla, and then going to Pangur Gap. Now, as far as Rajangla is concerned, these are the two dominating heights. They are dominating on the basically the approach which is coming through Sapung Gap and toward the Chishul. In case if someone has to proceed head of Chishul, whether it is a mechanized forces or by infantry, then he has to clear both Rijangla and Rajangla. So these are the 2 points, if are held by us, can give the bloody nose to the Chinese. So in any way, what I want to tell to the viewers is that the south of Pangong, all these heights are very important because they basically not only dominate by fire and observation, they also dominate the communication and logistic build-up of the Chinese. Chinese cannot proceed further until unless they clear these heights, whether it is Richangla, Magar or Gurunghit. This is the importance of these heights. So these heights have become very important. And now this black top and helmet top are equally more important because they are higher than this. And they are dominating all the posts of the Chinese in this area. So the whole game has changed now after we have occupied both helmet top as well as the black top on 29th, 30th August, though they were armed, but we were not occupying it after 62. So therefore, after occupying this, the whole game has changed because after this, we are dominating the complete Chushul Valley, Moldo Valley, and in case there is any ingress, we can easily defeat it. And it is the Chinese which are now on a defensive foot because all their posts are being dominated by higher features and higher heights which are occupied by us, and their communication and logistics system is totally vulnerable to us. And at the same time, their highway which is also coming towards Chushul is also being dominated by us.
Okay, just stay with me. Let me get in General Sehgal in. General Sehgal, let's flip it around to the other side, okay? Because on the opposite side of Chushul is Moldo. Why is Moldo particularly important to our understanding, sir? Just unmute yourself, sir, please.
Because has spoken beautifully. On the night 29th, 30th, we actually outwitted, outsmarted, and completely turned the tables on China. We are now holding all dominating heights and are in a position to completely defeat any plans of theirs whatsoever. With the result, whatever they had in mind stands absolutely out of context. They are in no position whatsoever either to proceed towards Chushul or to proceed towards the South Pangong Show, because from these heights, we are dominating them both by observation and by fire, and we can play very hell into their positions. Even their build-up, their logistic build-up, their communication build-up, their surveillance equipment, their cameras,
the reason I was asking specifically, sir, the reason I'm asking specifically, because we're talking about Rekinla and Rezangla, so I'm showing on our screen. So Rekinla, you can clearly see that this is the lower area that goes south-southeast of Chushul. One access point for the Chinese across their area dominated of the LAC is from Spangorso Lake, which is here in this arrow here. The other potential is through Rekinla and then up again heading north-northwest into Chushul. Between over this, of course, you have the Gurung Hill and you have the Magar Hill and the Rekinla Pass itself, of course, which is particularly there. Now, further down, sir, now where would in this roughly, how far would we have to get before we head into Chinese held Moldo? General Sehgal.
I would not know. In fact, I've been in that area for 3 years as a helicopter unit commander. I know that area like the palm of my hand, but I would not know the physical distance that is involved. And are we interested in really taking over at this point of time? Because if we actually try to take over Moldo, it will learn.
Okay, I'm not suggesting we're taking over. I'm just giving spatial information to our viewers watching. So here is the Moldo post. Let me just mark it out in a different color so marked out in green. That is the Moldo post, absolutely on the edge of Spangorso. In this case, General Pannu, why does the Moldo post have importance to the Chinese?
Rishabh, I will explain it differently. Today when the beatings happen between the corps commanders and between the brigade commanders, they are being held at a post which is created for formal meetings. It has a meeting room, it has resting room, it has places where we have recreation in the sense when there is a ceremonial meeting which happens there. These are formally built. One is at Moldo, on the other side, that is towards the Chinese side, and our own side is Chushul.
Correct.
When the Indians are hosting the BPM, they are holding this BPM at the Chushul hut. And when the Chinese are hosting, they are hosting a similar infrastructure that they have in that area. They host the meetings when the Chinese are hosts. When you're talking about the difference between these two, we get into a vehicle and drive about 2 kilometers and get into their hut. It is a plain area. It is in that Spangur gap, which is the Chushul hut and the Mordo hut are in that Spangur gap,
Correct.
which actually opens from the Spangur So. It actually runs over these two huts, if I refer to this as an area. Right in the middle of this gap are these two huts aligned, echeloned one behind the other. If you come from the Chinese side or go from this side, one behind the other. Well, now, when you talk about the wartime, obviously these huts are of no consequence because you're not formally sitting there and doing anything. Then what is of consequence is that a flat area from where their tanks and the BMPs or the mechanized columns can come in and attack? The answer is yes. As far as their garrisons are concerned, their garrisons are located along the open areas tucked into the sides of the hills of the Spangur Gap, which has hills all over. Like I was talking about a Trishul Height. The Trishul Height is northern part of the Spangur Gap, and then we have the Helmet, and then we have a Black Hill towards the western side of it. Now, if you cover this entire area, you are actually overlooking the Mordo or the Spangur Gap Bowl. You're actually looking down into it. All you have to do is sit on all these ridge lines and dominate this area, and also Richandla and Razangla are also then becoming a fulcrum that you hold these points and the Chinese cannot move around in this bowl. You have actually fixed them. And if the Indian army had not taken this initiative, Chinese could have taken this initiative, and they would have actually foreclosed.
Okay, so the logic is General Sivach. If I replace this, I've marked this all out on a screen, so you can see the Chushul, you can see the Spangur Gap, you can see where on the north bank of the Pangong So you have here the Mordo post. This is the Chushul Heights, and you can see, as the general has been describing, complete domination of the Mordo post over there. Had the reverse been true, had the Chinese dominated these heights, then they would have complete line of sight and dominance over Chushul. General Sivach, talk us through this, because right now every height, every ridge is going to be important. Ensuring domination of the Spangur Gap is how important to us?
Very important. Remember, in 62 war, basically the Chinese came through Spangur Gap only, and they could advance thereafter. Any approach of this will able to go, but it has to clear these heights. If the heights are with us, Rijangla, Richingla and Magar and Gurung, till they clear these heights, they cannot proceed further, because these heights are dominating the Chushul corridor and complete Chushul Mordo Valley. So therefore, even the mechanized warfare which takes place is being dominated from here. So the point is that whosoever holds the ridges control this valley. This is the crunch point, and this is what is the game changer. We have given the Chinese the taste of their own medicine by occupying these heights.
Okay.
So therefore, if these heights were occupied by them, then their approach becomes very easy for them to come towards.
I don't think I'm revealing any secrets by telling that both the Chinese and we have, tank deployments in this area. In a difficult terrain as it is in Ladakh, sir, would this be the limited area where actual armored deployment is possible? General Sivach?
See, as far to be General Sivach.
General Sivach, please take that.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to convey is there are many more areas like this, which is a plain area where the mechanized and tank battle can take place, and this is one of them. It's just going from Chushul to up till Dencho is a plain area where tanks can be utilized. They were utilized in 1962 also, and now this become a crunch point. We have also got a tanks there. The Chinese also have. So this is a place where the tank battle will be fought. But at the same time, the heights also become equally important. Until as the heights are not been cleared, you can't proceed further. And therefore, whosoever controls the heights, controls the city.
I'm desperately out of time. So, General Pannu, last quick words. Now, we've gone through the minutiae of the detail of the area. Put this into larger perspective. So, in the north, DBAO, Galban, coming down to Hot Springs, coming down to Pangong So to Spangur So to Rezingla. In the larger expanse, as we go further south, which of these areas now do you feel are possible repeat ingresses of what the Chinese have been up to? We know they tried in Galwan, they tried on the south and north banks of Pangong So, and they have the potential to try over Spangur So, but we dominate the heights, so probably that is holding them back.
I'm not very clear what you're talking about, and I'll explain why I say so. Today, situation has arisen, I think, for the first time that we have gone into such situations and we have occupied these heights before they are being attacked. Once you start dominating these areas, and more so that in the north, the Chinese have in 3.5 months shown that they have come into an area and then they refuse to leave. I would say that Indian army would go into these areas and not move out from there. And therefore, the question of reoccupying does not arise. If you have to, in a hypothesis, look at it, the Chinese will have to completely leave this area, go back 20-30 kilometers into their bases,
and I think
make promises and have boundaries settled, dispute completely formalized. Only then can you undo all this.
Okay, so I'm going to try to leave it.
Brought into a situation like this.
I'm going to try to leave it on that note, because the real recognition of India's LAC is halfway across the Pangong Lake also, not currently where they have a border post at Moldo. So if the Chinese were to vacate to and the LAC position, they would have to vacate this entire area, including half of the Pangong Lake as well. I think that puts a lot of what we've been talking about and will be talking about over the next weeks and months into perspective. Gentlemen, I much appreciate the patience with which you explained. It has been very useful. Hopefully it's been useful to our viewers as well.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.